It's a fandom trope based on a 90s TV show that is, by all reports, terrible. I'm not going to get into that, though. It's after 9:30.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
We read about Coil, the most paranoid man in the world.
Interlude 8.
Yeah.
You might say it's the epilogue to Book 1 of Worm.
You might say that. Or you could say it exists between books 1 and 2.
That's the delightful thing about this exercise is like the concept of interludes just doesn't really work for not. It's like deciding where to put them. You know.
They're just obviously in a liminal space.
They're in a liminal. You have to buy a little interlude separator that goes between your books.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Any takes up front, or you want to just tell us what happens?
Ooh, I mean, really fun being in Coil's head. Really fascinating. He really has issues in several ways. And I don't think he's going to be good at running the city and or the world. But I'm just not sure that Taylor's main goal right now can be stopping him if she's going to get the Undersiders on board with her. Like, that just doesn't seem realistic.
Interesting.
But,
well, let's circle back to that, and let's find out what we've learned about Coil.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, no, I'm just thinking about either, like, it's possible Taylor could have answered no to Tattletale when she said, does this involve the Undersiders? And Taylor's like, no, because they're siding with Coil, and I've decided to take down Coil. Or I guess she could have said, yes, I want you guys to betray Coil. But, like, that just feels like something she wouldn't expect them to do. So I
do
know.
Feel like this chapter and, you know, the Coil situation does feel like a really important obstacle to consider in terms of the where's the story going next.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We didn't really talk about Coil and all of the Coil-related stuff last episode in favor of sort of the even bigger picture.
Right.
But, like, he's right here.
He's right here. He's doing stuff.
The Undersiders are nominally, like, working for him.
I guess maybe they haven't committed, unclear. But, yeah, this was a really well-timed interlude because he had really fallen out of the picture. And now we find out that, he's even closer to his goal than he was. Feels like no matter what happens, this is something that someone has to stop. Who knows about it and wants to stop it aside from Taylor? No one that I know of. So, I don't know, maybe Mr. Pitter now. But
why would he want to stop Coil?
Well, whatever's going to happen behind that locked door at the end. But only the Mr. Pitter in a reality that's collapsed. So not the real Mr. Pitter. Or not the continuing Mr. Pitter.
Right. Well, that's the whole idea. I mean, we should talk about it.
We gotta
get into the chapter.
Let me tell you what happened. Okay. So, we start with Coil. He is living 2 lifetimes at the beginning, or 2 timelines. In one timeline, he's staying up all night in his base, surrounded by his soldiers. He's, like, researching stuff, reading the news, checking his stocks. And in his second reality, he is sleeping in a normal house in a home on the southwest end of the city. He gets up, waves to his neighbors, gets into a car, a 4-year-old Prius, heads into the city, where he meets the soldier known as Creep. We get a little tangent. Oh, yeah. We get a little tangent about how in Coil's worldview, everyone has some hook, something they need on a primal level, and if he can provide them with that, then he can win their loyalty. And his favorite people are those who are both desperate and useful, such as Creep, who no one else will work with because of his predilections. We don't get any more information than that. And also the Travelers, and Gru is his third example. So he changes in the back of this van driven by Creep. The van pulls into the base, Coil gets out, goes through a secure door, and in his alternate reality, he checks with his pet, with Dinah, to see what the odds are of anything going wrong in the base that morning. It's really, really low. 3% of any odds of anything going wrong before lunchtime. So he collapses that entire reality where he stayed up all night, keeps the one where he got a good night's sleep, and he keeps the memories and knowledge he gained from the other realities. So he stayed up all night doing research, basically, and he gets to keep the research and also get the full night's sleep. Who's jealous? Me. Then he immediately spawns another reality And we learn that he hates those moments of vulnerability where he only has one. But they're better now that he has Dinah. In one reality, he activates his soldiers to attack Empire 88 to keep them off balance. I guess they're currently divided. They don't have single leadership at this point. Into two factions, and he wants to keep them from merging into one. And in the other, he goes and surveys the base and sees the rooms that are being finished. There are quarters for the travelers. He gets some information from Mr. Pitter, who we learn is a nurse, sort of a professional health aide / caretaker who had been taking care of sick children, had had an exemplary record, had found out his wife was cheating and asked for a divorce, and his wife proceeded to ruin him, just like spread a bunch of lies, make him seem guilty of a bunch of the kinds of crimes that would keep you from getting hired as a male nanny in particular. And what Coil offered Mr. Pitter was, I can take out your wife and undo all of her lies. And so he did that. He had the wife killed, and, her lies fell apart in the aftermath of that. And now Mr. Pitter is incredibly loyal to him. So Mr. Pitter updates him on the traveler's quarters and on the containment facility. We hear about someone who's being kept behind a vault door. There was construction last night to put in the vault door. Apparently she, whoever she is, was agitated. They had to call in Trickster to talk with her. So Coil asks to talk to Trickster, and he notes that, he hates talking to his subordinates, especially his superpowered subordinates, who are so individually important, without having a second reality to collapse to if it goes badly. But he has one, so he's cool. So he talks to Trickster, says, can I go talk to her? To Noelle is the person in the vault. And Trickster's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Do you even have anything to offer her that's encouraging? And Coil says, no, I'd intended to introduce Tattletale from the Undersiders, who might be able to get more information, but she's informed me there are difficulties within her group and has asked that Coil not distract her or give her tasks until things have been settled one way or the other. Her words. So they go down to talk to Noelle. She seems to be a girl. Also, Trickster is described as a boy, which surprised me. I was expecting more of these people to be adults. But a girl, brown hair, dark circles under her eyes. She is upset at having been locked in. Trickster's like, well, this is what you agreed to. You asked for this. And she says, I know, but I didn't think it would be this lonely and claustrophobic. And they talk about that a little bit. And Coil says, we're working on a solution. And she gets mad. She says, you promised me a solution. You did this to me, Kraus, which I guess is Trickster's name. And Coil tries to say, I've been in contact with the head of parahuman studies at Cornell. And she's like, yeah, that's not necessarily going to go anywhere. That's just more poking and prodding in theories. And she starts attacking the vault door. And Coil's like, yeah, okay, nothing good is coming out of this. So he collapses that reality. He has the information he needed. He doesn't need to keep that conversation in existence. So where we end up is the reality where he is sending his soldiers out to attack Empire 88, says they'll be supported by the Travelers. And he talks to Mr. Pitter about Noelle. Of course, this is the reality where they didn't go see the vault. So Mr. Pitter's like, oh, do you want to talk to Trickster? And he's like, no, let him rest. And then he says, ensure the girl has a double ration for this morning. And Mr. Pitter says, the costs, and he says, are my concern. So we don't really know what's going on with that, but there's something she needs to eat that's very expensive, apparently. And having had that conversation with her in the other reality, he knows that she needs a little bit of placating right now. And he also requests the vault to be reinforced more, now that he's seen that it is not strong enough to potentially hold her. He checks in with Cranston, another associate, about businesses, which, seem to be doing okay. They're getting insurance payouts from the damage from the Endbringer attack. He checks in with Dinah to get the answers to some more questions. So the reality where she answered the questions initially had been collapsed, but he asks her the questions about will anything go wrong again anyway, because he wants her to learn that those are the questions every morning, so he can't always cancel out that he asked them. Then he asks her some other questions, asks her about will his grand plan succeed without his power helping it. She says 72%. That's very high. He is pleased. Yeah. The number is better than it was before Leviathan attacked. He asks chances the issues with the Undersiders will be resolved. And she doesn't really get the question, but she says there's a 65% chance they'll be with him at the point when his plan succeeds or fails, but they aren't all the same Undersiders. And he's like, okay, if the group changes, does that make it more or less likely that my plan succeeds? And she says more likely 4 to 11% more, depending on who comes and who goes. And then he asks what the odds are that he'll find a remedy to the traveler's circumstances, and she says only 9.5%, which is much lower apparently than it was before Leviathan's attack. And he thinks that Leviathan might have come to the city because of the girl in the vault, because of Noelle.
Interesting.
Unclear, we don't really know anything more than that. Then Dinah talks a little bit about how awful it feels wanting the candy, quote unquote, and knowing if she doesn't get it, she'll become sick. And she can see the odds of that reality. Even if it's low odds, she can see it. And the longer it goes before she has the candy, the higher the odds get. And the more distressing it is to sort of feel that becoming real. It feels as bad as becoming sick, knowing that it, being able to visualize that reality. And Coil kind of manages to brush her off and thinks like, okay, victory is so close. I think it's time for a celebration. And he says, he has his own vices. It's inevitable. When you have his talent, of course you would have this kind of vice. And he implies that he purchased his power.
Oh.
Unclear, and like maybe with a la the thing in Florida where someone was selling for like $35,000 or whatever. Maybe that kind of thing. It seems like even with his talent, and he can game the markets and stuff now that he has it, it had taken him years to pay off that initial debt, which is wild. I'm not really sure what that debt would have been. It sounds like it was more than $35,000. And he still owes someone a favor up to a week's services.
Yeah.
And part of why he's so paranoid, it seems like, is he's afraid if they, whoever they are, demand too expensive a price, he might still not be powerful and secure enough to pay it off. So even at this point, he doesn't quite trust that he'll always be able to cancel out the other reality. What a bummer, he says, to be this close to success. What if something went wrong? So he's going to indulge whatever this vice is that he can only really do because he can cancel out one reality. But he's going to make sure that even if for some reason he can't cancel out the reality, the consequences aren't too bad for him. So he's going to use someone who won't be missed. So he calls Mr. Pitter into the room. In one reality, he says, give Dinah her candy. And in the other reality, he locks the door. And that's all we get. We don't know what he does with Mr. Pitter. Yeah. Is it murder? Is it rape? Who knows? Eyeball dissection? I don't know.
He unlocks a little drawer in his desk in that reality as well.
Yeah.
So there's some implement. Yeah, it's just, since we're talking about it, this chapter leans into the horror of what's the worst thing you, the reader, can imagine. Right? Because Coil and Wildbow are very coy about like what particular evil he's doing. Yeah. And it's almost again hitting that beat of like the Amy thing in the hospital of like, well, how bad of a person you are? Like,
how bad could it be?
Like, you thought of murder? Are you saying you would murder someone if you had Coil's power, right? Like, because that's kind of the pitch that he's making. It's like, well, naturally, everybody would do something like this. But since we don't know, we're both invited to imagine something unspeakably horrible and also implicated because we're the ones, we're the ones putting that into the
You're putting that onto us, though. I don't feel implicated by imagining that he might be a serial killer. I feel like someone who's watched Dexter.
Yeah, but I'm trying to make... I guess Coil is trying to implicate you. Coil is saying fair. Everyone with my power would be, if not a serial killer, something equally vicey.
This paragraph is like, what an amazing attempt to justify it to yourself. The worlds he created weren't real, which actually earlier he said he doesn't know if that's true.
Yeah.
They were little more than an especially vivid, accurate dream. To enjoy a whole separate world free of any consequences beyond the ones he wanted, it would be unreasonable if he didn't indulge in it. Anyone would, given the chance.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like, I feel like I definitely would. There are so many things I would do with that power.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? The ability to spend a day working and also spend a day lounging around on the couch and then cancel one out.
Yeah.
The ability to have any conversation with anyone, like, that you wanted to know the truth from or something. And then, I feel like this was more relevant back in the days when I had crushes on people. I was like, but what would they say? Yeah, you'd want to confess your feelings to them and then cancel out the conversation. You could go and just, like, spend so much money on a luxury experience.
Yeah.
And then just cancel it out. And you'd still have the memory of that experience.
Yeah.
You'd have gotten to enjoy it, but you'd still have the money too.
Yeah. The thing is, right, I mean, the stuff you were saying, I feel like, I guess, confessing to someone and, like, learning if they reciprocate your feelings and then canceling it is pretty unethical.
Yeah, it's pretty sketch.
Right, like you spending a bunch of money and then unspending it is, like, not an ethical quandary at all. I feel like the thing that is presumably uniquely evil about, like, what Coil is doing is that even if he's right that the Mr. Pitter that he's tormenting isn't real, right? If that's all in his head somehow, right? Doing that changes Coil.
Yeah.
And and you know, I feel like there's lots of cases. I don't know. I guess I'm sort of now thinking about just this distinction between fantasy and reality, because like I was getting a little stressed out in the Tattletale conversation last chapter, kind of like, okay, but both Lisas report back to Coil, and then Coil destroys one of them, and like the idea of like, well, but does that mean that he's like creating and destroying Lisas, or like he's sort of like, you know, if there are multiple timelines, that he's like picking the one that matters, you know, like there's a lot of questions here. And so it feels very intuitive to me that like if he's tormenting Mr. Pitter in reality, like there is a person there who is being abused, and that makes it wrong no matter what. But if you lean into this sort of like, well, it's a fantasy, like if Coil was just writing himself a little diary entry where he described doing horrible things to Mr. Pitter, that's not going to change him as much as like acting it out. But it's I think
that's true.
It's not. Maybe
it's not ethically different.
No, I mean I think it is ethically different. But like it's sort of certainly the uncertainty. He's like playing with fire. Like if he's leaving a trail of like tortured Mr. Pitter's, you know, in alternate realities in his wake. But
and I do think this kind of power could really mess you up. And I think we see evidence of that here with Coil. I mean, the paranoia thing, among other things. Like, if you are used to being able to erase anything with negative consequences for yourself, you would become paranoid, because if you ever don't have that safeguard, like, we go through life without that safeguard all the time and we're fine. Yeah. But if you get used to it and then you're afraid you might not have it, you'd be terrified. Yeah. And I also think you would start treating people differently because you know that your reactions with them don't have to stick. Yeah. I think that would definitely be a temptation. Not just the like, oh, I have a crush on you, let me confess, but then erase the reality if you say no. I think you would start behaving in sort like very antisocial ways. Like, be like, oh, what happens if I just mess with this person a little bit? Like, oh, I'm mad, I can just take out my temper on someone. Like, oh, what if I like, could be fun to try hitting on someone in public, and like when I don't know if they like me back, and just seeing how it goes, and like just trying these things. And you would start pushing the envelope maybe, because there wouldn't be any negative consequences. Yeah. And so your relationship, not your actual relationship, but your internal sense of other people would become really warped really quickly. Yeah.
And my favorite example of that from this chapter is when he's talking to Dinah. She's whining about, you know, the drugs that she wants.
How he got her addicted to drugs, yeah.
Yeah, and he says, "You'll get some to tide you over in a bit, pet." Coil interrupted her in as reassuring a tone as he could manage. It was impossible to conceal all of his irritation at being disturbed from his thoughts, but she was distracted enough by her own problems that she likely didn't notice.
Then he erases that reality anyway.
Right, so. But he has the worst, like, bedside manner. Like, he's awful. Yeah, and I mean, you know, maybe he just had a bad personality the whole time. But I'm glad you brought up this point about, like, he's so paranoid, and part of it, like, you sort of get the impression that he's like, yeah, but being paranoid is a virtue, and I'm, like, the best at everything. Yeah. But
nice voice.
The moment when he first collapses the realities and then thinks like, oh, I hate this. I hate being vulnerable like this. Like you were saying, that's just how normal people live. Yeah. Like this power, it's so great, and he's not really enjoying it. Like, like
maybe he is at the end.
No, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like he's not a happy person.
He's overall lost by the power. Yeah. Right. He's lost something rather than gained it.
Right. And so it's just such an amazing, like, I imagine that, like, normal person with Coil's power, that, like, yeah, like, you know, I don't know, if you wanted to, there are probably somewhat healthy ways to navigate the ethics of, like, interacting with people.
Here's my pitch for the most fun use of Coil's power.
Okay.
Athlete.
Interesting.
Athlete in a high randomness sport. So hockey, for example.
Okay.
Really high degree of randomness. You have lots of, good players on both sides. Like any team can kind of win on any night.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you split the timelines, if you do something even slightly different, like hugely different consequences. So after every goal, you collapse the timeline to either erase the goal if it was the opponent's or keep it if it was yours. The other teams never score. Your team always scores. Every game you play, you win.
That's assuming you can control the ice enough to guarantee
differentness.
No,
it would only also really be effective because you're only on the ice for like a minute at a time. You only play maybe up to 20 minutes.
Right, because if you're on the sideline, you can't. The realities won't be different.
True.
Or at least not meaningfully different.
But that's what I mean about the randomness. Since there's such a high degree of randomness, the tiniest
it wouldn't be a shutout,
differences,
but you would always win. Basically,
you would probably always win. Yeah. That's my pitch.
I'm
sorry, you were saying something much more serious.
No, I just mean like. There's so little risk to himself. I mean, it's kind of like what you said, right? He's lost something. Like, the limit of 2 branches seems calculated to drive him mad, even as it gives him all of this control.
Oh, definitely. Too much control is bad for you.
And, yeah, to your point, like, he wants more control, or, like...
He wants, like, total control.
Right. The fact that he's trying to do this dominate the city plan, it's also because the more control he has in reality, the more powerful his power is, right? Like just he has more levers he can pull. There's more people you can get on the phone and have them do different things.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like that would
There's no happy ending for him.
Bring him happiness. And I also like, and this is just getting into like, it's teasing something for the future probably, like this little paragraph we get where he's like, and I still owe a favor to somebody who I kind of feel is a threat to me. It's just like, well, what's the deal with that? Right? Like Coil doesn't think about why he finds this particularly threatening, but the idea that like will he feel like when he controls Brockton Bay that he has enough power, or will he still be like, but that favor, I'm gonna need to get another city, or whatever, right? Like,
even without the favor, I think there would never be a level of control that he would be happy with.
Yeah.
Because he wants perfect control, and that's impossible.
Yeah. It's
funny, he talks about this thing where like everyone has this deep-seated need, and when I find it or create it, I can hook into it. And that's what he has. He has this deep-seated need for control, and he's sort of hooked himself into it. But he doesn't, it's not going to bring him happiness. There's no end to this road.
You're right. Yeah. He is so desperate, and he's rebranding that as paranoia.
Right. He's rebranding it as like smart caution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so talking about his philosophy, do you feel like he's right in any meaningful way about like the people he's interacting with? Like, we probably don't know enough about Trickster and Noelle to know whether they're desperate in the way that he wants them to be. Dinah has been, created, like he's created desperation in her, but like, do Taylor and Lisa fit? Do Regent and Bitch fit? Gru is the example, but like the other characters we've met.
Well, Lisa he bought, it seems like, and she recognized she didn't have a choice. So, I mean, I don't think the rest of them fit the way Gru does, I guess. Yeah. And Taylor's the one where Coil admitted, it's like, I don't have an angle on you yet. And she didn't really give him one. So, probably not yet. Trickster and the Travelers do fit because of Noelle, this situation where they desperately need something. It's funny, these hints that we're getting. I guess what we learned is that they need vast sums of money. And it turns out they need it because Noelle needs to eat something very expensive.
Interesting.
What the heck?
Yeah, do we want to take a detour into what's going on here?
Yeah. Is Noelle like a diamond eater? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I feel like I would be more inclined to think it was something really sinister, like she has to eat babies or something, if we hadn't gotten the Coil thing at the end, where, like, I feel like that's the sort of real darkness that we're getting. Like, I feel like Noelle also being sort of a monster in some way would be redundant.
Well, I don't know, but it's sort of a three-beat, because we had Creep, who
that's true.
is
That's
also
true.
like,
Some
and
sort of
creep is
pervert,
another,
yeah.
right, the predilections thing. I mean, like, to me, and again, I don't know what this says about me, but it feels like the answer is he is a pedophile and Coil is like, you know, procuring children for him to abuse, or like
That
something
sounds
like
reasonable,
that, right? Like
yeah.
it's something like that.
Yeah.
And
although I feel like a pedophile, like, you wouldn't necessarily know. Like, I feel like a pedophile could go get a normal job. And
if you're a sex offender, you know, like
yeah.
right,
Maybe
like,
it's that it's just so widely known he got caught. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's the kind of thing where, like, the lack of detail, it's
Yeah.
like it just invites you to imagine
Yeah,
something
yeah.
awful. And this is right. This is again. I guess I feel like it is intentional because with Noelle we don't know, but you're being invited to imagine that she's eating babies or whatever.
Yeah. How expensive are babies, though, Ted?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and she is very strong.
Yes. Yeah.
Strong enough to break out of a vault,
And
maybe.
it seems like she doesn't have perfect control over herself because she asked to be locked up, I guess, for others' protection, but then got upset at the construction noise when she was trying to sleep and tried to break out, maybe, or at least threw a fit.
Yeah.
So...
And she was potentially a lure for Leviathan.
Yeah.
Do you buy that? Do you think, if you do, can you explain it?
if she is someone who is strong enough to, or potentially will be strong enough to defeat an Endbringer, and maybe isn't quite strong enough yet, they would want to take her out as a potential rival threat.
Interesting, yeah.
It occurred to me, I was like, oh, is she someone who is like evolving into an Endbringer? But what Lisa saw about Leviathan was that he had never been human. So that makes it seem less likely to me that she's on her way to becoming an Endbringer.
Interesting, though, yeah.
Yeah.
And we know in this last arc, Leviathan was tracing a route to Coil's base, which is confirmed here. The base is... Actually, there was some flooding and some damage, but they survived, you know, the crater for the most part. And it's in part because Coil, his real estate involved building the Endbringer shelters, which is why his base is like as strong as an Endbringer shelter around the cities, which I liked. But yeah, Coil imagining that Noelle would be a lure of some kind is very intriguing.
Yeah.
And we don't know much. You know, we sort of had Armsmaster and Dragon explaining, you know, like, well, why did Brockton Bay, you know, suddenly become a target? You know, all this increased gang violence and all of this stuff. And you're like, now we're getting another...
Maybe
you know,
that
like,
was just a red herring.
right.
Yeah.
Is there something else going on? And how does that fit in?
And what's the deal with Noelle on the Travelers? It sounds like she possibly isn't one of the ones we've already met. I think it's the drama that Sundancer referred to. It seems like maybe it's something like a Labyrinth situation, but like more extreme, where she's not in perfect control of herself, her power has changed her in some ways. And either they took her in before that happened, or they discovered her and took her in anyway, and she is so dangerous and also needs, in order to survive and in order to be cooperative, some extremely expensive substance. So they're like saddled with this person they need to take care of, who's incredibly powerful. They can't just like cut her loose, and they probably have some sort of loyalty, affection, some kind of, you know, determination to keep her with them. And also, where would she go, you know? So there's sort of they're in the hole there.
What do you make of this idea that the chance for the Travelers to fix their situation has gone down?
So just the fact that it's so low, it's less than 10% chances that Coil is going to find a solution, which kind of makes me think, like, why is he even bothering then? Like, he promised he would solve it, but like...
Well, and he sort of is thinking, like, is it even worth it?
Right, like, what's he gonna do? Try to kill them? Like, try to kill Noelle? I assume he can't even do that. Yeah, the odds went down. Coil speculates that maybe someone who would have been needed was killed in the Endbringer attack, one of the capes.
Interesting, yeah.
That could be, but the fact that he speculated it makes me think there's probably a different answer. I don't know.
The one interesting detail to me about that on the reread was that the way he phrases it is not what are the chances that like they find the solution, it's what are the chances that I find the solution.
Right.
which is an important distinction. It's not necessarily that the Travelers are in a worse place overall, it's just that Coil's ability to solve it has gone down, which is an interesting
that's a good
nuance.
point. We don't know. Yeah.
And we kind of see throughout the chapter, Coil does have a good strategy with Dinah about asking for problems and things, but he really has to be careful with how he phrases things. And I feel like the lengths that he goes to be like, okay, well, are the Undersiders with me? Well, like, okay, does it go up or down if the group changes? Like, well, what does that mean? Like, oh, okay, what's the odds that they're with me when I succeed or fail? But should I have asked a question, what are the odds they're with me if I succeed? And what are the odds that they're with me if I fail? You know, like trying to figure out all of those different things. It's like, and, you know, Dinah is incredibly powerful, but still limited. And her whole thing about the Undersiders group membership may be changing.
Oh, man.
It just reflects like the reality of the world is changing under Coil's nose all the time. Yeah. So, like, you know, he doesn't have Mr.
perfect
Paranoid,
control.
Right. He doesn't have perfect control.
I was really intrigued by the Undersider stuff. It seemed like Dinah couldn't tell what was going to happen. I don't know if this day happens before or after Taylor's conversation with Lisa at the end of the arc.
Right.
It seems like it's shortly after the attack, so it could be around the same time, but we don't really know. Mm-hmm. I would guess before, just because it seems like a lot's up in the air. But if Taylor says, like, I want the Undersiders to help me with something, then it might still be up in the air. Because, you know, you need to check with them, need to see, like, okay, who's in, who's out, is Taylor in? If the group all agrees to whatever she wants to do, then maybe she'll be in.
Yeah, I mean, it's phrased in a really interesting, depending on who comes and who goes.
Yeah.
Right? So it feels like it's not just a question of, like, a Taylor binary choice.
Yeah. Though Taylor has already gone, so she might come back, but there might be someone new. Like, if Taylor leaves, there might be a new member, and maybe they don't know who that new member would be yet. Right. And it's possible not just Taylor would leave, it sounds like.
Yeah. There are, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like what Dinah says implies it's not just, well, it depends on if Skitter is there. Like the future. Like, she intentionally is saying, like, well, it depends. Like, I'm seeing all these futures, and the composition of the Undersiders is different in, like, a not quite so easy to explain way.
It's also fascinating to me that I assume that Tattletale has told Coil more than he says to anyone else in this chapter, but he sounds like he doesn't really know what's going on with the Undersiders, and Tattletale kind of just asked for some space.
Yeah.
So possibly he doesn't know that Taylor left because, he knows that something went down in the hospital. He probably knows what it was, but he doesn't know that Taylor's out necessarily.
Yeah, and this is still, like, the obvious answer is that when he had Taylor in the limo, he knew about the wannabe hero thing and he was okay with it for some reason and, like, teasing her. But on the other hand, Mr. Paranoid, I kind of feel like even if Lisa's like, no, trust me, she's not going to betray us, is Coil really going to go for that? Like,
maybe he doesn't know.
Right, maybe he doesn't know. So I'm actually really interested in what Coil knows about Taylor's whole deal. I think that's an interesting thing to...
But Trickster was there with a phone recording that whole thing.
Right.
So I assume he knows
he's got to know now. Yeah. But I guess the question is, did he know the whole time, or is he just finding out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, he might just be able to assume, like, oh, she changed sides. Like, she got picked up by the Undersiders. Okay.
Right.
Who wouldn't want to be one of the Undersiders?
The last thing about Noelle, he was installing the vault door overnight in both timelines. The one where he's home and the one where he's at the base. And that's actually a really good example of a bad risk. Because what he learns is that she's arguably strong enough to break out. Mm-hmm. And so, like, whatever her deal is, I feel like her, breaking out and doing whatever she doesn't want to do is a bad outcome. And he didn't have a timeline where there was no risk of that. Like, he's only now learning, I assumed a vault door was strong enough and we need to reinforce it. Right?
Yeah.
So, like,
you can't predict all this stuff.
Right. It's a really interesting example of the limits. The fact that he can just have an amazing night's sleep every night and also stay up, like you were saying in the summary, I'm incredibly jealous.
I would have been so desperate for that when I was a student. I used to fantasize about the ability to stop time and just get all my work done.
Yeah.
And this wouldn't be quite the same because you couldn't do anything that you wanted to keep in the other reality, but you could study, you could learn, you could do all your reading.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could go to class and stay home and study at the same time.
Which is, you split your reading in half and, you save half the time, right?
Well, you do all your reading in timelines that you collapse and you work on essays in the timelines you keep.
Exactly. exactly. But it's just so, like, telling about who Coil is, that just the way that he thinks about other people. And I know you've hit this beat a little bit, but, like, he doesn't care at all about waking Trickster up and annoying him. He doesn't care at all that Noelle got bad night's sleep. He doesn't care at all about how Dinah's feeling. He mostly just, like, treats them badly in, like, both timelines, but then tends to sort of, like, leave them alone if they're, like, not, like, super
like,
useful.
Wasn't necessary, yeah.
And when he's like, oh, I was planning to have Tattletale look into this. He doesn't say that. He says he was planning to have his Tattletale look into this.
Yes, his Tattletale.
And it just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah,
right?
he has his pet. He has his Tattletale. He's bought her. She's his.
Yeah.
It must be so weird being someone like Tattletale who knows how his power works and be like, what conversations has he had with me that I don't know about?
Yeah.
I mean, she at least has the ability to read people. She can probably know more of those answers than most people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so this is also an interesting, right, like, she said the serious kidnapping. That's not like him. He's not normally this ruthless. So I do wonder if she sort of has a blind spot to Coil.
Well, he's very careful in the conversations he has with her. Like,
right, and he goes out of his way to, he thinks here, like, Tattletale's too valuable. Like, even if I wanted to, you know, mess with her, I wouldn't, because if I accidentally get stuck in that timeline, I've ruined my asset. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is, to the extent that Tattletale's like, well, he doesn't actually bear me any ill will, right?
Yeah.
That's just sort of because he's so paranoid.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it's
so
not because
careful.
of his character. It's because she's too valuable.
And like he said to Taylor and everyone in the car, like, that is, in a way, a guarantee that he's not going to do anything terrible to Brockton Bay because he would want the city to be good. And he has too much pride in his work, and he's so careful that he, you know, he sort of hems himself in with his own desires and cautions. But like he says at the end, like, what if something unexpected happens? And like, and he also like considers things like Dinah to be part of the reasonable cost of doing business.
Right.
So,
but it's also like, Lisa, you were saying bought with money, but she didn't have a choice.
I don't know if it was exactly bought with money. I mean, it was money, but...
Right. But it's kind of like, to his thing about control, you know, what's the situation where she or anyone walks away? I feel like Coil has this like, well, I'm just offering you what, you know, the thing that you want. Mm-hmm. But if he still has use for you, I'm not sure. It feels like it's a very one-way street from his perspective. He's just like, oh, yeah, like, well, you were desperate and I gave you what you needed and you don't need that anymore. Well, I'll find something.
It needs to be an ongoing need.
Right, I'll create something in you.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess he does say, like, well, I hoped money would be enough.
Yeah.
But for somebody, I guess this circling back to a question is, can Coil create some kind of desperation in Taylor? Or is there something that Taylor desperately needs that he can use to have leverage over her? Because we kind of know money doesn't work for Taylor. No. And there are definitely people for whom money doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So, like, what do you think about that Taylor versus Coil matchup? Like, what's his best move with her?
That's such a good question. So, first I just wanted to observe what you said about, like, you give them what they need and they're fine. There is this element of, he has this understanding of these fundamental needs as something that will never be completely satisfied, that you need to keep satisfying.
Yeah.
And yet he doesn't seem to recognize that in himself, like we were saying.
Yeah.
The thing with Taylor, I don't know. I had just been thinking about, like, I would love to see Taylor face off against this guy. Coil would be so hard to defeat. You have to defeat him in two realities at the same time. Mm-hmm. And, like, actually at the same time. And that would be a fascinating, like, exercise. Like, I want to see that handled narratively because that would be so fun. The question of how Coil could defeat, quote-unquote, Taylor, I sort of fundamentally don't think there's a way he could do it. I think that there might be ways that he could get her temporarily, but she would be looking to defeat him. Like if he got Danny in custody or if he held all the Undersiders at gunpoint or, you know, they're like she might cooperate for a time, but I don't know if there's anything she wants or needs that she would trust him to give her.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that fundamentally she wants to make the world better. And she thought for a time that he might do that. And now she knows that it's not true. She also does want and need companionship. But she has made the decision now that getting that is not worth things like Dinah happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think that there is anything. The most I could see them ever having was like a temporary alliance.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just not imagining it, but...
Yeah. I mean, I'm just curious, when somebody presents you with a like, well, everyone's like this or that, it's fun to actually think about some of the characters specifically.
But like, Dinah wasn't. He had to get her hooked on drugs. Like, I guess he could get Taylor hooked on drugs. That would probably not go as easily as it did with Dinah. But, I mean, Taylor's a little bit older and has a different kind of superpower.
Yeah. Desperation can be created.
Yeah.
It does seem like there's maybe a mismatch between what Taylor really needs deep down and what Coil can provide. But
I think so.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
Because like you said, there is a part of her that wants glory, but what she wants to do, she wants to make the world a better place. And she does care about that result. It's not just about her having done it.
Right.
So I think he can't offer her some kind of substitute glory.
Yeah, and he's already on the list, right? The list was, I have to be better than Armsmaster, Sophia, and Coil, right?
Yeah.
I think those were the three names that she called out specifically.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. Like, does that point to anything specific that she's going to do better than those three? I didn't really come up with anything, but I'm very intrigued to find out what her plans are.
Yeah. The thing that jumped out to me strongest on this reread, the horror that I was not expecting in this chapter, is Dinah being tormented by the knowledge of her own future. Mm-hmm. And just like, of course, you're like, you know, a precog who can see everything that's going to happen. Of course, you're going to ask about yourself. And of course, if you're stuck in this awful addiction, you're just going to see like, all of the scenarios where like, what if he doesn't give them to me? And how will that go? I'm somebody who has a lot of anxiety around like, basically like hypochondria, like just like worrying about things that could go wrong. And like suddenly I'm like so grateful for the fact that I can't see the future, because just being
you're like, what are the odds I develop cancer in the next year?
Right. I would just be so hyper fixated on like, oh my God, well, what if that happened? Well, what if that happened? You know, like just all of the focusing on the worst possibilities for my own fate is like not necessarily something I spent a lot of time thinking about. It was like, what if you could see the future? And it's like, oh no, like poor Dinah.
Yeah, and she has to think actively about stuff to get the answers to Coil's questions, but I bet it's like Lisa's power where it's hard to turn off completely.
Yeah.
She's just, you know, lying there, seeing her future.
Yeah. Even though she's clearly limited, right?
Yeah.
She gets, you know.
It'd be hard not to think about the drugs when that's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, but Coil needs her because of his own psychological need that he created with this power. Yeah. But he was clearly also like this before. Like, why would you pay for a power? And did he get to choose which one?
Right.
Do we think he chose this power because he wanted this level of control?
Yeah, the way that he's like, it took me years to pay it back. Like, we're not talking, you know,
this isn't like some number of thousands. Exactly.
Yeah, we're talking some huge amount of debt.
Right. That's not necessarily money.
Yeah. Well, right. But I think that the implication to me is that it was a lot of money and there's more to it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
The tantalizing detail is just that he has some knowledge of these others, you know, that we don't know anything about. And it's
the people who he owes favors to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was able to leverage a connection to buy a power this good. And like, well, what does that mean? How did he have that connection?
Good question.
Who are they?
It's such a bummer when we get these interludes for like key characters and we get so much about them, but not their actual backstory.
I know. And right. There's the question of like contrasting with Miss Militia. We don't hear anything about his trigger event. Or like...
Right, well, does he even have a trigger event if he bought a power somehow?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
Right, we don't know how that works. I think this is the first interlude from somebody who, it's implied, has purchased their power, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Gregor, who did not purchase his power, seemed to have been forcibly given
but that's
one.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a similarity there. Yeah.
Potentially.
That's very interesting.
They probably didn't encounter the, like, god creature.
Right. If Gregor had a trigger event, he doesn't remember it, so...
Maybe Coil had to buy a trip into space to meet the cosmic creature.
I love that. So we're just, yeah. We're looking for who owns the spaceports.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Random thought, but I really hope that Mr. Pitter turns out to be a traitor to Coil. I was just thinking, like, okay, so he's like a nurse, a caretaker for, like, ill children. And then Coil puts him in this position where it's like, all right, so you're going to get this girl hooked on drugs and continue administering it to her. And, like, he's already killed the guy's wife. Like, certainly he could ruin him again, but, like... What if Mr. Pitter's just biding his time?
I don't know. I mean, the whole Mr. Pitter story, like, is really gross. Like, I feel like it's almost like a men's rights fantasy that Mr. Pitter has of, like, he was just a good nurse, like, doing his thing, and then he was cheated on, and then this woman was so horrible.
Like, is that even true?
She was lying, accusing him of all of these terrible things, and so, of course, I had her murdered, and now I'm incredibly loyal to this creep in a snake costume. Right, like, so, like, you know, I'm not saying, like, there's not really any evidence that it's not true, but it's, like, it's such a fantasy of that type of person of, like, well, this, like, evil, cheating woman who makes all these false accusations against, you know, this guy, and, you know, like, what else could he do but, you know...
Turn to evil, right?
Yeah. Like, it's very convenient. And so, I don't know.
That's a good point.
I feel like I'm happy with an interpretation of, like, Coil either, like, knows but doesn't care, or Coil also doesn't know and doesn't care. Just like Mr. Pitter, you know, like, sort of, you know, presented this sob story, and Coil's like, okay, great, like, sure, I can kill your wife for you, you know, like...
No, but he'd want to make sure the need was real.
Yeah. It's another example in the chapter of being a little bit coy, where it's like, well, the things that he was being accused of, they're not spelled out. It's, again, left to our imagination. Yeah. I feel
maybe that's the three-peat, and Noelle just eats gold leaf or something.
Yeah.
Gold leaf isn't valuable enough. Yeah. Platinum. Yeah. Just, like, huge chunks of it.
Yeah. I sort of feel like Coil represents the, like, killer next door kind of trope. He's like, oh, it's this my friendly neighbor who drives into work every day. Like, who knew that he was the supervillain Coil taking over the city? Yeah. And then,
such a nice guy.
As a villain, he's, like, also secretly a pervert in some way, right? Like, it's like a double, so he's like an onion of, you know, the hidden lurking evil of, you know.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know what I just noticed? For now, he wouldn't touch his pet, nor any of his powered subordinates, not when he was this close. Did he touch them before he was this close? Are there realities he's canceled where he's, like, tortured, killed, etc., some of the travelers, some of the undersiders?
It's possible. The understanding that I had of that is that as people are becoming, like, if he sees that people will be useful to him, he doesn't touch them. That's kind of the way that I take it. So it would, to me, that's only plausible if, like, at some point he was like, well, fuck these travelers, or, like, who cares about Tattletale? And then it was only after maybe torturing them a few times that he saw them as useful. And then he's like, no, off limits. It's certainly interesting that, as, like, I guess maybe this is just his paranoia, but that it is plausible that sometimes he, like, chooses the wrong reality or, like, gets stuck. Maybe he just means, like, with the Endbringer, like it's so clear to me that was his I'm up all night timeline that he was intending to collapse, right? Like, when he has the Undersiders come in, right? Like as we were speculating about, like, now it's just so obvious, like, this is his I'm up all night timeline. But, like, presumably it won't go that well, but he learns about how the Undersiders react, and then he collapses it, and he shows up well rested, and obviously the Endbringer's coming. He doesn't want to have to commute in. It takes him, 40 minutes or whatever, right? Like, he needs to stay in his base. So he's stuck, right? Like, so maybe he just means sometimes stuff like that happens.
It was a much shorter drive before the Endbringer showed up. Yeah. But with the Endbringer would have been longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he also just is paranoid even about his power. He's like, it would be a laughable tragedy to get this close only to have his power fail him, to accidentally choose the wrong reality, or to have his other self killed by accident or malicious intent.
Yeah.
Forcing him to live with the ramifications of these idle amusements. What a tool.
I will invite you to predict 72%. Does Coil's plan succeed in Worm?
So, normally in this kind of book, I would say no. But I'm going to say, yes, it does, but...
Okay.
Somehow it collapses, or that goes worse for him than if he hadn't succeeded, or, you know.
Right. He succeeds, but he doesn't, like, quote-unquote win in the story.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Right.
I don't think he wins.
So the grand
story.
plan may succeed, but we're looking at a longer timeline than that.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. But, like, 72 is, like, pretty good, but not guaranteed, right? And there's, you know...
I remember events that had that level of prediction that didn't happen. But he's also going to use his power to make it happen. So that's
true.
If he doesn't use his power.
Exactly. He can influence it. Two last things very quickly. One is the thing I keep coming back to is like the potential for horror. Like Coil is so convinced that his realities are fake. Like, if you have that belief and then you suddenly learn, like, that you've actually been, you know, doing this in a way that makes you feel morally culpable, like, what a shock. Right?
Well, he says he asked Tattletale if he really was creating multiple timelines or if it was just like some sort of predictive psychological trick, and she didn't know. So he does think that's possible. He just thinks that because he collapses one of them, it's not like it's real. Yeah.
I guess it's the analogy is to, like, the Groundhog Day scenario, right? Because, like, of course, if you're trapped in Groundhog Day, like, part of the point of that movie is, like, he does literally everything that he can think of and imagine, and then he has to keep living the day, and he eventually gets bored, and he eventually sort of achieves nirvana, right? Like, in the story. But, like, so, like, of course, you're gonna try it all. This is different, of course, because it's not a time loop, right? It's branching and coming back together. Right.
He only gets two.
It has similar elements of the, like...
Can try stuff without consequences.
Right. You can, and like the fear, of course, in Groundhog's Day is like, well, what if the loop ends, but it's on one of the days when you were mean to everyone?
Right.
The second little thing is just, how does Coil get into his costume? The zippers and the snake.
I didn't realize the snake coiled around him. It coils around him,
but the zippers and the snake. Yeah. Which I really like that detail. Yeah. Shall we wrap up? We've had some predictions. You know, we're going to have a mailbag. I'll do a quick announcement at the end of the episode. So if you're listening to this in real time, we're going to be taking a week off and then returning with a mailbag. So you probably have time to sign in on Discord or send us an email. If you want to ask us a question, we'll answer a bunch of them on the air. And then we'll jump into Arc 9.
Do you want to tell me the title of it first?
Yeah, so I want to read the first sentence.
Okay, we'll do that first.
It was 7:30 in the evening in a
small town on the coast of Massachusetts. I don't know.
Yeah, not going to do much for you. How about the arc title? Sentinel.
Sentinel? Is that a type of bug? Is there a bug that's like a sentinel beetle or something? Feels like there probably is. But it does feel like a departure in arc title kind of word than we've had before. The others have kind of been processes. Sentinel feels more like a person. I want this to be some sort of like Endbringer watch system or system to get Scion to like report to Endbringer tags. I don't think that's what it is. I don't know why this arc would be about that. It's not like there's going to be one arc of Taylor cleaning up the Endbringer system and then she'll go off on some other adventure. Like, that's not what's going to happen in this arc.
It would be awesome, though.
Yeah. Sentinel. Maybe that is the name of the new group that Taylor forms for people who want to be heroes, but like in a really actually good way.
I'll tease you that the arc title feeling like it's a different vibe is because there is something different.
Is Taylor not the point of view character?
I don't know. Would you want me to tell you if that's the case?
You don't know who the point of view character is?
Do you want me to tell you if that's the case?
I do want you to tell me if Taylor's the point of view character.
What if I told you that the next arc was a series of related interludes?
Oh, wow.
None of which are from Taylor's perspective.
Wow. Okay, well, I have no idea what's going to happen then.
Delightful.
Okay, well, let me predict who the next interlude is about. It's 7:30 in the evening in the Eastern Time Zone. I want dragon, gosh darn it. Give me the dragon interlude.
Amazing.
Okay.
What if we have a whole dragon arc? That would be great.
Oh, I would love that. All right, well, I guess we'll find out.
Next time.
Well, not really, because we have the mailbag, but the time after next.
Almost next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.